So the Samsung Galaxy S8 is finally getting Android 8.0. So the update has started rolling out, and I've finally decided, you know what, let's update and see what the differences are. And I decided I'll show you guys as well. So let's start off and compare the two. So I took a few clips from beforehand for the stuff I knew that was changing, and I'll tell you some stuff that I've noticed changed that has along the way. So before we get into anything else, let's look at the benchmarks before and after the update. So on the left is the before and on the right is after. So on Antutu, you can see that we have a decent jump of from 188,176 to 197,358. So that's a 10,000 point jump in Antutu, and that's a pretty big jump. And most of it is coming back in the UX section. Moving on, we are looking at Geekbench. Now, this was interesting because while the single core score improved slightly, so it's up from 2008 to 2011, the multi-core score dropped by 100 points, so that's a pretty drastic drop. And I'm not sure what's going on. Maybe in 8.1 update or something, we'll see some of the speed come back. But right now, that's the case. However, performance feels just as similar. So in the real-world performance, I haven't seen anything different. Regardless, let's get right into comparing the changes between everything else. So let's start off and look at the first key difference and that is the keyboard. So let me go into messages. So here's a message I sent myself, which is weird, but okay. So let me show you guys the difference. One of the bigger differences here is right here at the top. What you guys can clearly see is this taskbar here instead of the word recommendations we had before. And now what you can do is you can actually have this come up like this, and you can change it over. So what you have is the recommended keys and otherwise this taskbar. Now this taskbar is the more interesting feature. So what you have an option to is directly getting into your emojis. So if you guys remember before the emojis, there was a setting option here and you had to it wouldn't really show up. You'd have to go into the numbers and then it would show up. So it was kind of annoying. It wasn't easy to get to the emojis. Now it's just a quick toggle up here. You go in, and you could just start using your emojis. And coming up to emojis, emojis have finally been updated. So the emojis on the Samsung phones before just looked horrendous. They didn't even look like emojis. They were just so weird, especially comparing them to Apple. Not even Apple, just look at Google Pixel. The emojis look so much better, and on this it just looked horrible. Finally, the emojis look a lot better. You can actually tell what emoji is what. Beforehand, the details were so minute on the emojis, you really couldn't tell what emoji you were sending, and I often just wouldn't send emojis with this phone because I didn't know what I was sending, so I didn't want the person on the other side to be confused or misinterpret what I was trying to say. And another cool feature we have is stickers, so you can now have stickers, and you can download more if you want, but really I'm not that kind of guy. Then we have GIFs. So this is kind of like the Google keyboard. You have the trending GIFs and a ton of different GIFs, and you can use them and send them in conversations if you'd like to. Another cool feature now we have is you can actually customize this taskbar, and one of the customizable features we have is the clipboard. So on the clipboard, what you can see is there are multiple recent screenshots, there's text you've copied and all that. So say you're just copying a lot of stuff in and around, you can obviously just quick use this clipboard, and that's a very cool thing. Another thing we have is this taskbar where you can drag and drop things. So now if you didn't want voice input, you didn't want the clipboard, you could drop voice input, or there's this one-handed keyboard option, which for some reason isn't showing up right now. But you can use this keyboard one-handed, which is awesome. So let me just see if, yeah, so there we go. So you can use this keyboard one-handed, and that's just a quick toggle. So like this, and you already in quick the one-handed mode. So it's very comfortable, especially if you're just wanting to use it for a quick message. There's no weird gesture or setting you have to go dig up and find. You can just quickly use it, and then you're done, boom, back to normal. That's a very good feature, and I find it very useful. And that just about almost rounds up the keyboard differences. And the last thing I'd like to show you is the keyboard. There's a new contrast layout where you could have the keyboard be different contrast colors. So let me just show you. Let me turn this on. And what you'll have is options like this for your keyboard. So now the keyboard just looks, oh wow, it just looks so weird. But that's it. You have a few options like this where you could customize the keyboard to look a little bit different. Now, I'm not sure what the exact use of this is. If somebody knows, please let me know down in the comments below. But a high contrast feature is there if you want it, and I don't want it, so I just turned it off. So let's move into the next change. Now, one of the new major changes with 8.0 on a whole with Android is the way it manages notifications. So now we have this new notification layout where all your messages, it kind of gets combined in a very neat format. So all your notifications, they get compiled in a neat format, and you can expand on them, and you can expand on certain ones you want in particular. So now I have, as you guys can see, I've expanded Twitter, and a lot of the messages have come up. Now I could even expand more. If I wanted to, I could expand them back. I could, make them smaller and hide them because they're not important, and a lot of stuff like that. So I'm sorry if you guys can't see exactly what's going on the screen, but the notification system is very nice. One of the features you also can do is you can mute conversations or mute an app if it's bugging you repeatedly for no reason, and that kind of gives you a good flexibility. Another thing for notifications is now you can change the way that notifications are on your home screen as well. So before, if we had an app that had a notification, you would see this number right here on the app, which is basically 1, or Instagram has 8. So the notification, the number of notifications you have on that particular app. So there's a new setting now which allows you to use only show without numbers. So what this allows you to do is show these notifications without a number. So now you guys can see this app. So there you go. You guys can see now, instead of having numbers, we have just an orange dot. So with number, without number. So, whichever one, if you like the more clean look, you'd probably just go with the without number. If you like knowing how many notifications you have, the number one is really good too. So it's not intrusive anyways, but it's just a cool feature. And it's cool that you get a lot more control on your notifications. Moving on, let's look at edge lighting. So edge lighting is one of the features that isn't really that important, but it's really cool to have. So let me just send a message to myself to show you guys what this keyboard looks like. So there we go. Message is sent. There we go. So now you guys can see edge on this is so much brighter. So I took a clip of how it looked before, and I'll put it in right here. So you guys can see the stark difference. I had to turn off all the lights in the room to actually even get this edge panel to show up on camera. And now the edge panel has a lot of settings and options that you can customize. So I've been able to customize this as to where you can actually see it even if there are lights on or if it's bright outside. And there's a lot of new effects. So there's this basic effect that I'm using, which is this one. And then there's these multicolor effects as well. So you guys can see there's a color that changes. Then there's a glow effect. So the best way I think I can describe it is, imagine if light was bleeding in your display. That's what the kind of look is. And then there's glitter. So the multicolor one, it's fine. Then you guys can toggle transparency. So say you don't want it to be very transparent, you can have the setting go down. Or if you want it to be very apparent, you can have it go up. And then there's width. So width is the main feature that really helped. So this is all the way up, this is all the way down. So it becomes hard to see it when the width is down on camera, but there it is. So it's almost like just a very thin line going across. And then there's also color options. So you can now make it any color you want instead of having to just have a few options. So let me just select dark blue. So I like blue. I want it to be a little bit darker. There we go. So that is now my edge lighting. Say I want something a little bit lighter that I can see more clearly. I can have this. So there's a lot of options now, and you can also have those effects, as I said. So it kind of does change the look of the entire edge display. Moving on, a small difference with folders. So now if you create a folder, beforehand when you created a folder, you did have an option to get colors. However, you only had 4 or 5 options like these. Now you have a multicolor option where you can essentially choose your own color. So say I want this folder to be yellow. I can just hit yellow, and now this folder becomes yellow. You didn't have that option beforehand. You couldn't do that. You had only these few colors that you could choose from. But Samsung now gives you the option to further customize the app logos. Another nice difference we have is the updated settings menu. So let's jump into settings. Now here at the top right, there is this new profile. If you hit on it, it leads you to your Samsung account. It's very similar to what the iCloud setting is on your iPhone. If you guys have used an iPhone, you know what that looks like. So that's kind of like that. It takes you to your Samsung account. You can view details with that. Another key change is in the About phone. So now when you open up About phone, you guys can edit the name of the phone first off, and you can you see your phone number, your model number, your serial number, and your IMEI all there, all at once without having any issues. Now that's an important thing because those are the most common things you look up when you're looking at a phone. You want the serial number or the IMEI or the model number, and then you can look into other stuff as well. So the software, you can look at the software version, the software. All that is in its secure. It's in its own page like it was before. And just so you guys know, it's running Android 8.0. Samsung Experience version 9.0, and it's on Knox 3.0 with the February 1 Android security patch. So that's that. Let's move on and look at the lock screens. So now this always on display is a very big change. So there's a lot of new features associated with this always on display, and let me show you. So now you guys can see I have the time, date, a photo, I have a message down here, my battery percentage, and notifications. So I can make this a lot more detailed, or I can make it a lot more simpler, and let me show you. So if I go into the always on display, there's two menu features. So one, let me just go in and show you what I could do here. So I can have home button and clock, or just home button. So I like both of these. I'll keep these on, and I can choose what happens when I hit the home button twice. So I can have it to be a quick launch camera, or I could have it to be just to turn on the screen. Now let's look at the other options. So now we can choose our clock style. So there's a ton of new clock styles. So we have the original one, which was the one we got on the last software. Then there's this newer, more simplified one. There's this one with the hour being a lot larger. There's this 3D kind of cube one. So there's a lot of new cool display features like this. There's the analog watches. So the analogs have a lot more designs as well now. They look really cool. This one is actually a favorite of mine. It looks like a race car. It looks like a gauge on a car. And then this one, so there's just a lot of options. You can have a photo, so I chose this photo. You can have the calendar always be on. You can have two time zones, so you can have one time zone here and another time zone here. So say you have family or something in another country, you could definitely have that going for you as well. Then there's always the face widgets. There's always this panel here you could use where you have information on the side, which is kind of like a alarm clock at that point. And then there's a lot more themes you can download, which is even cooler. So, there's the possibilities with it have now become endless. And it's very cool that, there's more customizability in it. So let's move on and look at the next difference. So looking at the next feature, that has to do with Wi-Fi. Now, there's a new Wi-Fi feature in this phone where you can automatically turn on Wi-Fi based on location. So your phone has location services on, and say you're leaving home. Now, when you leave home, you stop using Wi-Fi. So what it'll do is you turn it off when you leave. Now, what happens is you go out all day, you've worked, you come back home, and you forget to turn on your Wi-Fi. You're using your data to watch videos and stuff, and then you realize, crap, I forgot to turn on my Wi-Fi. This fixes that problem. So what it does is it turns on Wi-Fi automatically in the places where you use Wi-Fi frequently. So say that you use Wi-Fi at your house or your friend's house. So when you're immediately at that location, it'll turn Wi-Fi on and try to connect to that network. Now, if the network's not there, it won't connect. It'll just keep using data as usual. But if you have Wi-Fi availability, it'll automatically turn on and it'll connect to that network. So it's a very useful feature, especially if you forget to turn on Wi-Fi. There's also a Wi-Fi power saving mode where it reduces Wi-Fi by cutting it off when the screen's off and stuff like that. There's also the switch to mobile data where it aggressively hands off Wi-Fi to cellular data if your Wi-Fi is slow. So that's a good feature too if you're using it and you don't want your data to be interrupted. Another new feature that's been available for a while, but it's finally available on this phone, and that is dual messenger. So say that you have a dual SIM phone. So a lot of countries have dual SIM phones, like the Asian countries especially. And if they have two phones, they probably have to have two accounts or two things like that. So a very popular app, WhatsApp, which is a multi-platform messaging app, what happens is WhatsApp only allows one phone number to be registered, but say you have two phone numbers and you want to use both of them for WhatsApp. You just couldn't do that before. You could only choose one and use that. Now, on this phone, what you can do is you can use 2 accounts of WhatsApp. So here's my account running here. So that's one account, and here's a second account where I haven't set anything up, so you guys can see welcome to WhatsApp. So now you can do this for a bunch of apps. So you can use it for Snapchat, Facebook Messenger, Instagram, I believe. No, Instagram already has it within itself, so Instagram can do. You have so many different apps. You have WhatsApp. I'm sure you can do it on WeChat as well. So there's a lot of cool features like that where it allows you to use dual messenger. So it creates a copy of the app, and you can use 2 different logins per se, so you can maximize your output. That's a very cool feature, and I'm very happy that Samsung has implemented it into the S8. Now moving on, looking at one of the final changes and reports that have come across, and that is biometrics. And reminding me of that is one more change we have is we have a few key differences on the lock screen now. So instead of having a very big numpad as we did before, there's a smaller one on the lock screen, and there's this new iris scanner repeat feature that wasn't there before. So now there's a small change there. And another key change we have is the speed of biometrics. So let me just show you guys. So let me try the fingerprint 1, 2, 3. So definitely acts a little bit faster. If it unlocks or not, that's up to you guys. I think it unlocks a little bit faster, but I'm not sure. So ready, 1, 2, 3. Unlocked. So it's definitely, it acts a lot faster. I'm not sure if it's opening a lot faster. So let's try iris out. Ready, set. You have to swipe up. Unlocked. Awesome. Let me try that again. Unlocked. One more time. Unlocked. Iris scanning is definitely a lot faster. Iris scanning is doing a lot better. Fingerprint scanning, it's the animation and just opening everything up seems to be taking more time than the actual authentication. And that's okay, but I mean, you know, it depends on how much stuff you're running. So if you have a lot of widgets and always on display and this and that running, it's obviously going to take a second or two more for all the animations to load up and work out. But the iris scanner definitely is working a lot faster. Overall, I'm very happy with this Android 8.0 Oreo update. It's been doing very well, and I'm looking forward to see if I can spot more changes. And if I do, I'll be sure to update you guys on Twitter and Instagram, so be sure to follow me there. Also, subscribe to the channel if you want to watch more content like this. I have a lot more coming in the future. Thank you guys for watching. I'll catch you in the next one.